I think that's probably how I got into cars. Had a lot of fun. Fortunately, I Mustanged the Mustang. So when I was little, not too little, early teens, my father had a very modified Acura Legend. I don't know what he did to it, but it had a built bottom and top end. It was basically max effort NA, and he'd just do pulls with it left and right. And as a kid, it felt like a roller coaster. So I think it's just kind of one of those things that's ingrained for me, at a young age. When I turned 18, he actually gave me that car, so it was really cool. And I went out and started doing, going to the drag strip at Houston before they tore it down and other stuff. I thought the car was as fast as it could be, but no, it was very slow. But yeah, I think that's probably how I got into cars. I don't know what was damaged on the Acura Legend. My father had some issues with it prior to giving it to me. He thought he fixed it, but it was having overheating issues. We rebuilt the top end, replaced all the gaskets, refreshed the entire motor, everything you could do short of replacing the motor. It was gone for a while, then it came back. I spent probably 2 times what the car was worth trying to fix the overheating issue, so I just kind of sold it. After that, I just bought a pickup truck. I wasn't really doing nothing in cars for a little bit, so did that for 3 or 4 years. Randomly decided to cut the muffler off. Then it was loud, sounded cool, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is it. And then I think after that, that one, my fault, I didn't know anything about cars back then. I just liked driving them, ran it out of coolant, blew the head gasket, just destroyed that poor truck. Total negligence. I started looking for a sportier car. It was a 2001 GT convertible automatic. Probably the worst combination for a car guy you could possibly get. Convertible automatic. I did a couple of things to that one. Full exhaust, changed out the rear gears for some 410s. Had a lot of fun. Fortunately, I Mustanged the Mustang. Had a brake failure going around a corner. Chasing my dad around some twisties, and just sent it straight into a utility pole. So believe it or not, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but when I was shopping for cars, I was actually shopping for the brand new at the time Shelby GT 350. And I went and I test drove that car, and it was really rough, trying to even get a test drive in that car at the time, with it being brand new and me being young, early 20s. Dealers were like, no, get out of here. But I did finally test drive one, and it was cool. I loved it. It was great. And then I went to another dealer. They had another car. I forgot what the car was that I went to see, but they had a Genesis Coupe there. And this was the same day that I drove the GT350. I got in the Genesis Coupe, I drove it, and it was game over. It felt better than the GT350 to me. The power delivery felt better. It wasn't as fast. Like, don't get me saying, oh, a stock 3.8 Genesis is faster and better than 350. It was just a preference thing. The interior was a lot nicer to me, it felt, and I just liked how less refined, I guess, the car felt. It was a lot more sturdy. You felt everything. And I've just been die-hard Korean ever since then. It's not that I wouldn't own another car. It's just every car that I've bought since then has been KDM. Went from the coupe, so I actually built the Genesis Coupe with a company out of Nevada, MT Motorsports, very, very respected within the KDM community. Unfortunately, I had some issues. My boost controller was just acting up crazy. Like, the settings would just randomize or reset, and unfortunately, you get on it with the wrong boost controller settings on a tune that's not expecting it, and parts go everywhere. Especially when you have a turbo that's capable of well over 1,000 and a tune set up for probably 450. I went from that to the G70, went all over, I spent so much money on the G70, just trying to, chase records. I went through, so I got all the tuners. At the time I went from lap 3, went to Logic, tried to go through Torque, and then N75 was still doing research at the time. My friend was doing theirs, so I kind of felt like I didn't need to try it at the time. And then we didn't have all the tuning options we have now, like BMS, Sixth, myself. And I wasn't happy for one reason or another, right? Either the car was fast, but the community around the tune or the support around the tune was very poor, or the tune was poor, but the community was good around the tune, or both were poor. So I decided, learn to do it yourself. You want it done right, do it yourself. I think that the community's been the same the entire time. I think there are still a lot of new people tuning, but I think that it's more so like recycled cars, right? Like, I think a lot of people are buying cars that have already been tuned, reverted to stock, traded in, they buy it. Because I've seen issues from people, like one of the common issues on our platform is the heads lifting, and they'll be like, oh, I just bought this car. I was like, yeah, well, you have lifted heads. They're like, how? I haven't even tuned it yet. It's like, well, did you buy the car new? He's like, no, I bought it with 100,000 miles on it. Well, somebody tuned your car. I want to say that the tuning scene is getting better. We have companies now, myself, SleepyTuned, Burger Motorsports has stepped in. He's trying to do, quite a bit with a single turbo stinger, trying to make the fastest stinger in the world, which is awesome. Kim Jong Tuned, he's out here, doing his work, doing head studs for everybody, working on his own tunes, making good progress as well. So I think overall, the platform as a whole is growing, which is awesome. The KDM community as a whole has been growing tremendously, exponentially even, I would say. When Hyundai released the inline, I think it was poorly received at first by people because it was a Hyundai. But I think as people have started to realize, the capabilities of the cars, I think a lot of people have, moved towards them. And I think it's spawned a lot of people that weren't into cars, weren't into performance or anything. They just go, they buy the N because it's supposed to be the better one, and then, they're hooked. So I really think that helps, KDM as a whole. Mustang used to be a great car for enthusiasts. Now you try to go buy a Mustang, you're out 50 grand out of pocket. Think you can get an Elantra in for low 30s? The most fun part is, they're 2-cylinder motors or 1.6 cylinder, cylinder, 1 liter, 1.6 liter, 2 liter turbo cars, but they put these tiny turbos on them. So even though they don't have much motor, they have like all the power immediately. So, you're at like 2,000 RPM, you put your foot on the gas, it just goes like a V8 almost. Not as much power, but the response is there. Start slow. I see way too many people that will try to go for the biggest and the baddest, or they'll only do one point of research. It's very easy in the current community for groups of people to be like, oh, this tune's the best, or that tune's the best, everything else sucks, this product's the best, everything else is horrible. Do research from all sides and try to be objective instead of emotional about your purchases. Like I said, just start slow, do an exhaust, enjoy the exhaust a little bit, do an intake, do a tune, but don't jump up to, the highest tune you possibly can for your car, because you're gonna get bored of your car. And then your only options are sell the car, trade it in, or spend way more money than you ever anticipated to make the car go faster. That's where a lot of car guys either get burned out or just bored with their car, and then they're not having fun anymore. This is an expensive hobby. Like, don't come into it thinking you're gonna get a lot of power with no money unless you're buying, a 90s Civic. I think it starts at buying the car. Like, if you already have your car, you can do what you can do with it. But if you're going into it, wanting to have a quick car, I think it's good to always set your sights on quick, not fast. But do your research on the platforms, right? Like, there's a lot of platforms out there that you wouldn't expect to be fast, like the Kia Stinger, for example, with the rally we're at. Like, nobody would have ever expected those to make dang near mid 500 to the wheel with some bolt-ons and a tune. So do some research on your platform, whether you want to go BMW, Audi, Kia even at this point, which is crazy to say. They all have tuner cars that might not be a tuner car.